So and that's how I bought and sold my first property. And today, after over 200 creative finance deals in three different countries, Brazil, Australia, and America. So yeah, I think I can teach something for my girls that wants to learn about creative finance.
Welcome to Your Money, Your Rules, the podcast where real people build real legacies through financial literacy, strategic investments, and purpose-driven wealth. I'm your host, Teresa Villaruz, founder of the Thrive Movement, and today's guest is someone who's living out a mission that hits deep. If you've ever felt stuck by the system, told your dreams weren't bankable, or wondered how do I help others while building cash flow for myself, well, then this episode is for you because today you're going to meet a woman who didn't wait for the banks to say yes. She became the bank. Joining us is Miss Iva Norris, the powerhouse behind Premier Investar. Iva helps families who can't qualify for traditional loans become homeowners, regardless of their credit, using creative finance. But Eva's not just building deals, she's building legacy. She's the founder of SheOwns, which is a nonprofit empowering women to become financially free through real estate, and ReStory, a movement to help survivors of sexual abuse reclaim their story and thrive. Her Mount Everest, well, I will have her tell you about that. Eva, I know every legacy has a turning point, so I'm glad that you're here to share your Mount Everest.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Teresa, for the amazing introduction. So you're awesome. So yeah, my Mount Everest, that's what you want to know, right?
Yes,
So
yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
okay, great. My Mount Everest is to help 500 families to acquire their homes, the ones that cannot qualify for traditional loan because we're going to be the bank for them. So that's my passion. I have been doing this for many years, and I had helped hundreds of families to buy their homes without having to go to the banks. And that's my passion. And it's the more rewarding thing in my business is when a family come forward and say, thank you, you changed my life. That's all that matters to me.
That I love that. I love that because you have a Mount Everest that's not self-fulfilling. It's really making an impact in society. So thank you so much for that. Now, going back, you said, we don't need to work with banks. They don't need to work with banks. You could essentially be the bank for them creatively. So take us back to the moment where you realized you don't need a bank or the bank's permission to change lives. Like, what was that turning point?
Actually, that happened when years ago when I started in real estate. And so I came to America, married in Brazil with American man, and landing in America with no much language and no money, no credit. So, and I thought, I have to be creative. How am I going to buy houses, right? So then I started to buy houses subject to an owner finance and turn around and help families, one that cannot qualify to make those payments anymore. And they are so grateful that I come forward and help them and turn around and help families that cannot qualify for a traditional loan by being the bank for them. So many people call that a wraparound mortgage, and that's exactly what it is. So we just get the low interest rate that the sellers have in their mortgage and transfer along to the families that cannot qualify for traditional loan because if they go to the banks today, even if they qualify, the monthly payment is going to be so high that's it's quite impossible. So that's why I'm so passionate, especially now that the interest rates are so high. So by getting loans lower, I'll be able to help families without have to charge them outrageous interest rates. So that's why it's a combination of helping people all over.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with, like you said, the interest rates are so high right now compared to the previous years, and people who could have been be able to afford a higher or a bigger home for their families, right, aren't able to qualify for that anymore because of the fluctuating or increasing interest rate. Now, you've done so many of these creative deals, right? And I just want to hear a story about I guess one of your favorite creative finance deals that you've helped a family get into.
Mm, so many. Let me think about one. So yes, there's a Sylvia. Um, Her husband was living offshore, and she had five children. She
Mhm.
has. They have five children. So then I have this property in Silly, Texas. Yeah, Silly, Texas. And they saw my signs. They came forward and start talking to us and figure out what the process is and everything, right? So the beauty of this that they just came with like a $6,000 down payment, and they were able to purchase the home and pay rent market value in the area. So that means they just can get out of their rental and come to have their homes with $6,000 in monthly payments of a rent price in the area. So it's funny that one time when I was visiting Houston for a seminar, and then I decided to go to the house. I said, okay, let me check the house because normally I don't see my houses. I buy everything remotely. So then I said, okay, since I'm here, I was checking some of the houses, and one of them was this house. And we were on the contract with this property and we didn't close yet. And I remember that she asked, can I come and clean? I said, look, for liability purposes, it's better not. But when I went there, she was there and then she was shocked. And it was funny. And then I said, hey, don't worry. I just checking the properties and everything. And how do you like the property? She said, I love it. I'm so excited. And then I start to interview her, right? Since I'm there, okay, let's turn on the camera and ask questions. And it's beautiful to see because she was all tear up and said, "Oh my gosh, I'm so grateful. I can't believe I'm speechless." She said, "It's too good to be true." I was talking to my husband. It's too good to be true, but no, it's right here, right now. I'm gonna be moving with my 5 children, and I'm so excited. So, and those are the things that also help me to keep going and do more and more. Because when you think about 500 properties in creative finance, this is 1,000 transactions. So it's a lot of work, as you can tell.
No, absolutely. And I could see in your face that you're just so passionate about helping families. Nowhere in that story did you talk about how much you made, but it was more about how did you help this family this woman who's pretty much a single parent because husband is offshore and raising 5 kids. And you're truly making an impact in lives. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that story.
My pleasure.
Now, you mentioned she had $6,000 down, mom with 5 kids. Um,
Mhm.
I'm not sure if there was anything in that story where did she have like how obviously she didn't have a lot of down payment for purchasing a house traditionally, but
Mhm.
are there any others challenges that she probably have faced in getting a property traditionally, such as like no credit or bad credit or whatnot?
So no, because we are the ones extending the credit to her, so she doesn't have to even to go to the bank. But yeah, there was challenge because normally we ask 10% down payment, right? So, and they didn't have 10%. So the house was like $125,000 and they didn't have the money. And I said, okay, analyze their credit. And I don't care about credit, right? But when they cannot come to enough money for the down payment, like 10%, uh, we are concerned that we're going to have problems, right? And we don't want to set anybody up to failure. We really want them to succeed. And our goal is for them to stay in the house as long as they want, because our loans is for 30 and 40 years. So we don't want them to go anywhere. We don't want them to refinance. We want them to stay there because we are doing this not only to help them, but also create wealth for ourselves through the cash flow. So if I want to stop working, I can stop because the money is coming every month. So yeah, the challenge was that she didn't have enough, and because her husband was offshore, have a good income, and I said, okay, so they can afford to make these payments. Let's do this. So that's exactly what I did. So I think maybe one of the reasons that she will say, "Oh my gosh, I'm speechless. I can't believe I'm getting this property with 6,000 down, and I have a home." So
Yeah.
it's
That's beautiful. Now, you did mention cash flow there because it does have to make sense as a real estate investor that you also benefit in helping other families, right? So you mentioned building in cash flow and you're doing it by helping families win. The
Mhm.
question then is, how do you structure your deal so that everyone walks away better off?
Okay, the first thing I do to see if it makes sense when I buy the property. When I buy the property, I know for how much I can sell for and how much I can get as down payment and how much is the monthly payment for the rent market in the area. And that is how I structure my deal, because this way I'm not going to have trouble finding somebody to move in the house because I'm not charging above the rent market in the area. So makes easier for these families to leave their rentals and come to live in their homes. And that is the entire process that we use is based on the rent market in the area. So it doesn't really matter the interest rate, doesn't matter how much interest I sold from. What matters is I want to make sure that is affordable for them and they will never leave. If something happened in the future, there's a crisis or something, they're going to leave their homes to rent somewhere else. And then they're going to figure out that doesn't make any sense
Yeah.
because whatever I'm paying here is how much I'm going to pay if I go rent. So, and that's how we structure the deals.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah. So underwriting it properly and then also doing the comps, not just comps to sell, but rental comps as well, just to make sure that the numbers make sense. Love that.
Yes, absolutely. And many times the price doesn't really matter because we buy properties market value. For in this situation, for example, the seller was distressed because they're missing payments. They couldn't afford the property anymore. And when I come forward and he owes what the property worth and market value, and plus the property needs to have some renovation, right? So, and then when I told him, yeah, I can take over your payments. Yes, I can buy your property. And he said, really? Are you sure? I said, yes, I'm pretty sure I can do this. I can make this happen. So yeah, that was beautiful because I was able to catch up with their payments, like the 2 or 3 payments behind, and then take over their payments. And the interest was low, right? So then that's why I could go ahead and sell this property and be able to cash flow and help another family to get into their homes. That's the beauty of my business, right? I can help everybody involved in the entire process. I love it.
Yeah, that's amazing. You helped a seller who was in distress. You helped a family who needed a home, and then obviously you're building this wealth and this legacy for you and your family. That's amazing. That's amazing. Now, earlier you also mentioned that you're deeply passionate about helping women, especially survivors of trauma, to help them rewrite their stories. Now, what role has home ownership played in your own healing?
Yeah, so I learned something, I'm not sure, maybe it was with Pace, said something like, hey, you teach what you need to learn,
Mm.
right? And so, and he said that after I started the process, because my goal was to empower women and help them through creative finance, because that's the talent that I have to structure the deals and figure out the way to help the seller and the buyer and make money in between. So I want to help other women to reach the same level of financial freedom that I did. I help them. So, and that is one reason I create SheOwns, right? Because everything came around to be like perfect because I am a woman, survival sexual abuse. And I said, okay, so I fought so much to get where I am. And if I only had somebody to help me the way now I want to help these women, oh my gosh, I would have done that a lot faster, right? And so, and that's why I want to help women, if they are survivor or not, right? But the beauty is when I come to my meetings every month and I meet these women, it's about between 20 and 30 women that comes to these meetings every month. I teach them about creative finance, how to they can come into this real estate world without having any of their money to start, right? They don't have to have experience, credit, money, nothing. Just come with the courage and listen to me because that's how I started, right? So then I tell my story, inspire them, and help them to get to that level. So at the end, by the end of every meeting, I go ahead and introduce to them, to the audience, my passion to help survival of sexual abuse. This is a 13-week program that we go through to help them to reclaim their identity and rewrite their story. And when I go to the audience for my She Owns Women, and I ask them, if you know somebody that needs help, just talk to me. And it's very funny because many of them come forward, of course, privately and say, I need help. And I said, oh my God, this is working, right? My strategy, my idea of helping reach out to bring them to a safe environment because now they know me. I'm giving to them, right? And so they have the confidence to come forward and say, hey, I need help. And I said, that's phenomenal. It's not like how you call in the real estate world cold calling, right? So we already have a relationship started. So, and for my huge satisfaction, I was able to start my first ReStory week like 3 weeks ago because of these women. So I didn't have to reach out outside of my network. So, but of course, I want also not continue reaching women in this real estate entrepreneur world, right? Because they also need help, not because they already got to a point that they are financially free, that they don't need help to heal and carry their lives moving forward, right? But also our effort is going to go to women that have nothing to do with real estate, but have problems with trauma. So yeah, we want to reach to them. We have several venues that we are already looking to go and reach, like location where they are, everything that we need to know about these women and come and be in front of them and ask if they need help. And nobody's forcing enough, only if they want, because the truth is, if you're not ready, doesn't matter how many times that show up in front of you, you're not going to come forward. And I know that because I am one of them, right? So a lot of things, what do we do? Turn around. Nah, it's okay. I'm good. Because we're not ready. But then in September last year, that when I went to a Clever Investor summit, where Pacey also was there, that was one of reasons I went to Clever Investor summit. And there I had a light bulb moment when I noticed everybody in the stage, like millionaires, multimillionaires, billionaires, they telling their story. And I was shocked that I said, oh my gosh, how they have the courage to tell in front of everybody these stories, right? So it's drug addicted, sexual trauma, a lot of these things. They said, oh my God, that's incredible. And so, but it's okay. I was listening the message and I was there to learn about real estate, right? So, but then something amazing happened because I was when I went to the bathroom on the corridors of the event, the venue, and I saw this book laid down, on the counter there. And of course, easily to notice that was one of the participants just left there. And so then I got that book and I said, oh my gosh, well, I don't know, real estate, never heard. It's free anyways. Let's go. And I took the book and then I took to the hotel and it was the time to go home. And then I start to figure out what I'm gonna leave, what I'm gonna take, because when it's a seminar, you get a bunch of things and merchandise and gifts and stuff. What I'm gonna do now? You never have a lot of storage in your luggage, right? And then I got the book in my hand. I said, can I take this book or not? So then my phone dinged. That was a message. And then I read the message. Jesse. Hey, Jesse. He just asked, hey, it was nice meeting you. Let's connect. And so then I was responding back to Jesse and say, yeah, it was amazing. Yes, we'll connect. But then when I saw Jesse and I was with the book in my other hand, Jesse, what? What's the last name? The same name. So I said, oh my gosh, I can't believe that. I got this, took the picture, sent it to Jesse. Jesse, look at this. I have your book. I said, no way, I can't believe that. Yes. And he said, I wish that was signed. I said, and I flipped the page and took pictures. Said, yes, this one is signed. He said, I can't believe this because I didn't sign many of them. I said, okay, I'm taking the book with me. So, and then I got to the airplane. And then first thing I got was the book. Let me find out what's going on here. And I went straight to the about the author. And I started reading and reading. And again, I was shocked. He was talking how he was growing up with 6, 7, 8 years old on the streets with his mother, drug addicted, and later on grew up to be drug dealer and go to prison. I said, and I thought, how in the world somebody publish something like that? That's crazy. So, and at the end of the book, the end of the book, no, the end of the story about the author, he was saying, today as a financially free man, I go every single week to the prison to read the Bible to the prisoners. I said, oh my gosh. Then I started to cry and said, now I got the message, right? So I started to cry, then I started to, oh my gosh, God, I can't do that because I was seeing the message from God. Yes, you have to do that. Talk about my trauma, right? And I said, I can't. And so, but that was a fight, it's a fight back and forth. But of course, at the end of the day, God won. And I started to do what I have to do to reach up the women. And first I need to heal, of course. And I went to Brazil. I went to my hometown. I went to the places where everything happened. I was 13 years old at the time. So, and I went to the camera and said everything that happened in the past. And I couldn't do that if it wasn't for the high power, for God, to give me that strength to do that. So, and that's why I'm here, still standing and strong to help other women because that's where I need to be strong because they need me.
Oh my gosh, that was so powerful, Iva. Thank you for being vulnerable and telling us your story that, you know, I really believe that, the pain was there because God is working through you. And now
Yeah,
you've switched pain into purpose. So that was
yeah,
so powerful.
yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now, there's so much to unpack there. There's so many tips that we could ask, but what would be the first step that you would recommend someone that who probably was in your same shoes when you just started out? How can you encourage them to take that first action to get out of this, victim mentality and really turn that pain into purpose?
Yeah, that's awesome, amazing question because when I came to America, like I said before, so I didn't have any way of doing anything. I just have a hope. I had a hope because I read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, like everybody else. And then I had a dream. I said, oh my gosh, now I am in America. And now I believe the dream is possible. And then I didn't wait to find ways to get money and stuff like that. So what I did, the first thing I joined a real estate investor association and happened to be at Georgia RIA, right? They are a non-for-profit organization that they had a lot of classes throughout the week, morning, afternoon, and night. I was there in every single of them. So you pay like $100 for a year. So yeah, I can afford $100. So then I learned so much. And I really remember when I sat next to one of the members, and he has this folder and beautiful. I said, "Oh, if there's this brand and business card and letterhead." Wow, I was so impressed. I asked him, "Hey, that's amazing. How long have you been investing?" He said, "For a year now, for over a year." I said, then he asked me, "How much about you?" I said, "Maybe 3 or 4 months." And then I said, "How many properties have you bought so far?" And he said, well, I'm getting prepared. So now I have my business open, my bank account, all my marketing prepared. Now I'm going to get started. He said, wow. And then he asked me, what about you? How many properties have you bought so far? I said, 4. I don't have a business card. I don't have a business. I don't have any marketing. I don't have any plan. But I got 4 properties, right? And I said, the message is this: just don't overthink. Go get the deal. The first thing you have to do, get a deal. Because if you don't have a deal, you have nothing. And the time you're preparing, you're overthinking, and the momentum is passing. Because what I was doing is get what I was learning and applying, get what I was learning and applying very quickly without trying to figure out what's the exit strategy. So in my case, what's free properties? What can be wrong, right? Free houses. So how many can you buy? All of them. That's what I was doing. So 3 years later, I had bought 20 properties, actually 28 properties without any of my own money. So, and I said, okay, so if I can do, everybody can. And my first house that I got was Lake House, which I went to the bank to ask for an unsecured loan. My husband said, "You crazy? You have no collateral. We just got in the country." Of course, he's American, but I was not, but it's okay. I said, "Do you know what? I learned that I'm going to do anyways." And I did. And shockingly for him, not for me, because I knew I would do it. And then I got $20,000 unsecured loan. So I said, oh my gosh, that's fabulous. So that was enough money for me to get started and buy my first property, because then I would give a 20% out. And that was the first and last time I ever bought a property through an agent, because I have to start somehow. And this property looked amazing. I saw that a potential and I said, okay, let's buy this. So that's what I did. 20% down. The property was $100,000, did the renovation. And then I sold to this gentleman for $135,000. And it was like subject to, like, no, not subject, lease option in Georgia, because that time I didn't know anything about RAP, if it was possible or not, but what I learned was subject option to purchase. So then 2, 3 years later, they will refinance and pay me off. So, and then when I was the gentleman there, look at the house, love the house and everything, and I always go to the meetings with my contracts in hand. And then, and he said, yeah, I like the house. And this, how much down? I said, 5,000. And he said, okay, I want it. I want it. Let's do this. I handed him the blank contract, said, could you please fill up the contract for me? He looked at me, really? I said, yes, my English is not so good. So I think you want a very good contract. Let's do that. He said, yeah, of course. He did the contract and everything. And sure enough, this I asked him, hey, can you now fill up my agreement, my contract, because I need a copy? He said, unbelievable. And do you want the house, right? He said, yeah, yeah, okay, help me out. And then he said, okay, give me the check. Aha, that you know how to ask and how to do, right? I said, of course, give me the check. So, and that's how I bought and sold my first property. And today, after over 200 creative finance deals in 3 different countries, Brazil, Australia, and America. So yeah, I think I can teach something for my girls that wants to learn about creative finance.
That's an amazing story. Oh my gosh. It went from, like just bringing, like just having hope and dreams and taking action. That is amazing. I love that story where you're in the RIA Association and sitting to a guy who has been in this or trying to get in this game for longer than you have and is still in the building stage, where while you, who just as soon as you learn something, take action, had more homes than he had. So that is a great story. Thank you for sharing that. Now, for anyone listening right now and wants to own a home, but the bank said no to them, or maybe for a woman, for example, looking to reclaim their financial future, can you share where should they go to learn more, or how to connect with you?
So the best way to go is go to my Facebook page, Iva Norris, you can find me. And so, yeah, just chat with me, send me a message that you're looking to purchase a home. And really, it doesn't matter your credit. I don't care about your credit at all. The 2 things that I'm looking for, you have enough down payment that's not substantial, 10%. And if you don't have the 10%, as you heard the story, we can work something out. And the rent market value in the area. If you can qualify for these 2 things, you're already pre-approved and you can get into your house. Yes, that's what I have to do. Just connect with me on Facebook and let's chat.
That's awesome. And I will also have Eva's Facebook profile link in the show notes as well. All right. So, true to your money, your rules fashion, I do want to make each episode actionable. And the audience's homework this week is simple. List 3 families in your life who feel stuck in the renting cycle. Then share this episode with them, and you might be the reason they finally own their dream home by working with Eva. So make sure that's your homework. Just list 3 people or families in your life who feel stuck in the renting cycle, who might need a home, and Eva Norris right here, our special guest, can possibly help them to in that journey of home ownership. So
Absolutely.
now, if today's conversation stirred something in you, maybe you've got money sitting idle and you wish you could help families like Eva, but you don't know where to start. That's where the Thrive Banking comes in. Now, we help real estate investors, capital partners, and impact-driven lenders grow wealth in two places at once through cash flowing assets and life insurance strategies that multiply your impact. To learn how it works, go to thrivebankingstrategy.com and check out our free training because wealth shouldn't just build profits, it should build people. Now, Eva, thank you so much for showing us what it looks like to build legacy with heart.
My pleasure, my dear.
Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much.
much.
And to all of you listening, remember, it's not about playing by the rules. It's about creating your own, your money, your rules. I'll see you on the next episode.